So when I was in grade school, I learned, look in the dictionary when you have to write a paper. What is a greenway? Merriam-Webster. It has what is pretty much the heart of the greenway concept, and it says that the first use was in 1966, the first documented written terminology. But it evolved. It's an evolving idea, and it's still evolving. And the President's Commission had a huge influence on making the Greenway concept national. So Greenway definition, this kind of says it all. And the important points here are that it's linear, it makes connections, and it serves multiple functions. It can be with trails, it could be without trails. It depends on what the primary functions are, but all greenways serve multiple functions. It's been confusing to people when they hear about greenways and they look like this. They have sidewalks and they're on roads. But remember, greenways are about making connections. So if you're going to connect parks and public destinations with where people live, you're going to have to deal with the infrastructure that allows people to walk and bike. So we call those greenways too, and there's no reason why those greenways can't serve some sustainable purposes, which I'll talk about in a minute. These are the typical categories of benefits of greenways. Environmental, like I said, greenways that are on roads can become green streets, and there's a national movement to develop green streets that have facilities that allow stormwater management. So environmentally, greenways, think clean water, clean air. Recreational, that's totally obvious, so I'll move on. Transportation, also a national movement that's growing for multimodal transportation, for commuting, and greenways are a part of that network. Economic, don't forget that every greenway is value added when it connects to downtowns and the places where users of trails can get services, and that gives an economic benefit to the communities. Health, active living, obesity is a national concern, it's a public health issue, so obviously greenways play a role there. And cultural and historic is obvious. We're all here to talk about how the greenway can be a way to elevate the awareness of our history, and it can help us give momentum to the preservation of cultural resources. I think the most important thing to realize is that you need to know all of those benefits, because every one of those ideas has a constituency with many, many people, national programs, funding sources. They are your partners, and when you're trying to convince somebody to jump on board as a partner, you need to talk the language that they speak. So the benefits are really important to establish. And also the Morris Canal Greenway is part of a national and regional system. And these are some examples of the intersecting or in some cases, trails and greenways that share some of the path. Regionally, so 9/11 Memorial Trail, have people heard of that? Are you familiar with that concept? 9/11 Memorial Trail is an effort that's been going on for about 10 years to connect the Pentagon with New York and also through Shanksville. So that is also follows some of and crosses the Morris Canal Greenway. The World Trade Center this is the close-up, and you can see that it's kind of a web of trails. The Crossroads of the American Revolution, that's a heritage area that encompasses 7 counties, I think. It is a draw for heritage tourism, and whenever you have a draw for heritage tourism, you also have the benefit of those people coming to see the sites along the Morris Canal and to learn about that too. East Coast Greenway, I'm on the East Coast Greenway Trails Committee. I have been very involved with this. It's a 3,000-mile trail walking and biking, goes through 25 cities. It's the urban sister of the Appalachian Trail. And the Morris Canal Greenway also shares some of the path and intersects it. Now on a regional level, Liberty to Waterfront. That trail also shares and intersects. And you can see the East Coast Greenway, the Liberty Water Gap Trail, they're both in New Jersey City sharing the same path. It is a statewide trail, and you can see that it follows a similar trajectory. Excuse the name, it's the Hudson River Waterfront Walkway. That was an oversight. But that is at, how many people, have people been there, walked along it? Probably a lot of you have. It's a fabulous destination unto itself. And it is the terminus. It goes right along the Little Basin, which is the end of the Morris Canal Greenway, and the High Line. I had to mention it because it's also a destination unto itself. Many of you have probably been there. It's built on it's 1.45 miles, and it's built on an elevated rail structure. We have an opportunity in New Jersey to do something similar in Jersey City. As I said, it's a web of intersecting regional, local trails, and the East Coast Greenway, you'll see that corridor of green there is part of an elevated rail that we have on our side of the river, and we have an opportunity to have the East Coast Greenway follow that trajectory. Could be as world-class as the one that is in New York. So I had the benefit of, actually the pleasure of working on a project about 10 years ago to define the alignment of the East Coast Greenway through northern New Jersey. And we worked on making the linkage between the DNR Canal and Jersey City. Now, the DNR Canal actually served as the first section of the East Coast Greenway, which is notable because you can see that it has a really great opportunity in the Morris Canal Greenway to also make value added to all the trails that it intersects and all the communities that it brings together. So there were a couple points, and then I'll be letting you move on to your break, I guess, that made the East Coast Greenway project successful, not just our project, but ongoing. And one of them is that we brought together the leaders and decision makers. We gave them maps and clear descriptions of what we were trying to do. We gave them the big idea, which always gets people excited, and then we gave them the ideas about how it will help them meet their goals. We gave them methods to solicit feedback, and we included public and private entities from nonprofits. You can see historic preservation, the engineer and planner, mayor's representatives, county engineering. All of these people need to come together, and the earlier they come together in your project in helping to define how the Greenway develops, the more they will make that idea their own. Celebrate, raise public awareness when there are successes along the way. In the many trail projects I've worked on, we always tried to coordinate to brief the elected officials and also to give them photo ops so that they feel like they're a part of this and will help to get the word out. Then volunteers and friends groups play a very important role, as you probably know. Boy Scouts, others, these are volunteers. One of my peers is a volunteer that helped to erect some of these kiosks along the East Coast Greenway. I also had the benefit of working on the Jersey City alignment for the Morris Canal, and that was a wonderful experience last year, and Bob and others have participated in that study and giving their advice. I think one of the most important points to make about that study As is true with many greenways that are going through dense populated areas and developed areas where there's not necessarily the open space, or there's been new uses and the remnants of the canal and may not be apparent. You have a short and a long term. You want to get it off-road as much as possible, but whenever you are creating maps and you don't ever want the long term to be forgotten. So we made a point of, in several of the projects I worked on, creating maps that showed both a short term and the long term, so it doesn't get forgotten. We also identified rational endpoints for segments so that you can put your energy into creating something that has immediate value and usefulness to the neighborhoods and communities that it goes through. So this is the end, but it's not the end of the national effort and the regional effort and the local effort to make all of these connections happen. And the Morris Canal Greenway is a fabulous opportunity for all the communities that are along the way.